Hello everyone, glad to have you back for another classic WoW video. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think will be pretty beneficial for newcomers to classic WoW, but has some substantial impacts to all levels of play. Today's topic is add-ons. One of the things that was so great in Classic compared to other games at its time was the ability to create add-ons and modify your experience in-game. Add-ons in Classic were not nearly as commonly used when compared to today's game though. There was no platform like the Twitch platform where you can just scroll and select whatever add-ons you want and install them and have them instantly. Most people actually went into their game files and had to add them for themselves, which for an inexperienced user could have them adding it to the wrong location and becoming frustrated. Because of how easy it was to actually not be able to install add-ons the right way for some people, it could have been the main reason why you didn't see a lot of people using add-ons like we do today, or for people to even know that the add-ons even existed. Today we're going to talk about some of the most useful add-ons that I can think of for Classic WoW. First up is a threat meter. While having a damage meter is nice so you can show off to all your friends how godlike you are and how much they all suck, the threat meter is much more important. If you're playing without a threat meter or ignoring your threat meter, you're probably going to be dying a lot in dungeons, or your tank is just going to freaking hate you. We've mentioned previously how important threat generation is for Classic, and the fact that there was a threat meter add-on goes to show how important it was. This is going to be very helpful for your DPS to know when to back off. It's also going to be useful for your tanks when they're tanking multiple mobs. Your healers are going to be generating a decent amount of threat as well, so it's important for tanks to keep hitting your additional mobs when you're AoE tanking. And I just mentioned it, but next up is a damage meter. I just talked about how the threat meter is way more important than this, but it is still nice to have it. It will be helpful when you're trying to figure out how well you're doing when you compare yourself to people running the same class with similar gear. And if you're not too stuck up about it, it will also let you know when you need to be asking someone else for help. If you do end up being on the other end of that private message when somebody asks you for help, don't be a dick and help your fellow Classic gamer out. Classic is only going to be as successful as we make it, and if we make it a toxic atmosphere, it's just not going to be successful. Next up on the list is probably something that's going to be controversial for some people, but it's probably still something that I'm going to run. Quest Helper. Back in Classic, there were no give-me's for where to go for quests or how to do them. You actually had to read the quest text to find out where to go, to find what you needed to kill or who you needed to talk to or what you needed to collect. There were multiple different add-ons that you were able to use this way to help the player with tracking their quests, similar to how it's done today. For my first journey from 1 to 60, I didn't even know that add-ons like this existed. For the most part, when I got stuck with something, I was hopping on Thoughtbot, looking up the quest, and seeing what other people had said about it. A lot of people also didn't do much questing back in the day, so some people may find this add-on pretty pointless because they'd rather just grind most of their way from 1 to 60. That being said, even for the most experienced players, add-ons like this can be very helpful in reducing the amount of time it takes to get to cap. Something that is probably pretty obvious, but boss mods and timers. While raid encounters back in the day were considered much easier than they are today in terms of the mechanics, there's still add-ons that will help you be aware of boss mechanics in raids and for those high-level 5-man dungeons. There are also some add-ons of this type when it comes to PvP. In PvP, you can get timers for battlegrounds. This is going to be very useful for knowing how much longer you have until the opposing faction captures the lumber mill, or how much longer you have until you cap a graveyard in AV. One of the more important add-ons that people are going to overlook when first starting up Classic is an enemy cast bar. Enemy cast bars were not always visible. It wasn't until later in the game's life that they were actually added to the default UI. Most people are used to seeing it now and have a habit of just spamming their interrupt when they see a spell being cast. It's going to be quite the change for someone if they're used to seeing it and then all of a sudden they get hit with the spell without any sort of cast at all. Next up are raid frames. The default raid frames from WoW have certainly come a long way, but they are by no means nearly as friendly in Classic. You used to have to set up each party individually. Not only that, but you'd have to do it each time you raided, if I remember correctly. Again, this was a long time ago. I would highly suggest looking at getting some raid frames to make sure you can keep up with who is and isn't dead or dying. This is especially important for healers, and there are even some healer-specific raid frames that make it easier for you to heal. This is also pretty important for tanks too. Tanks can peek at the frames to know how many healers they have left up, so they know if they need to be using their potions or their health stones as well, or popping one more of their cooldowns for the next big hit from the boss. This is also going to be extremely helpful in PvP, pretty much for the same reason it is in PvE, but nevertheless, it's very, very valuable. And the last set of add-ons that I wanted to talk about is UI mods. Now, this is by no means saying it's a requirement, but I know a lot of people like to customize their UI, and I'm glad to tell you that there's going to be plenty of options for you to choose from. This is not to say that the default Blizzard UI is bad. I actually enjoyed it for quite some time. It was only recently within the past few expansions that I actually made the swap to LVY. That being said, there are going to be options for you when it comes to Classic. I remember trying out a few different UI overhauls and HUD changes to try and make the interface easier to react to. Personally, I will more than likely just look for something like Bartender and go out and change just my bars and just get a grid or something like that for my raid frames and party frames. And that's it. I know it was a short video, but I really feel like this may be a very valuable video for some new players when it comes to Classic WoW. There also may be some other add-ons that you other Classic WoW vets can think of, but these were definitely the big hitters on my list. I will also probably be making another video pretty similar to this post-release to kind of give you guys an idea of what add-ons that I'm personally using that can probably help out you newcomers to Classic WoW. But for now, that's all I got. As always guys, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hey, it's Addons here. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe as well. It really helps out the channel. We put out multiple new videos each week and we appreciate all of your support. Thanks for watching everyone, and cheers.